June 6, 1944. As thousands of Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, Hitler kept his most powerful tank divisions 150 miles away, convinced the real invasion was coming elsewhere. Why? Because of a dead body floating in the Mediterranean Sea months earlier, carrying fake documents. This wasn't just luck. It was the culmination of the most elaborate deception campaign in human history. Today, we're diving into 7 mind-bending levels of espionage that literally changed the fate of the world. The Phantom Army. Can you imagine an entire army that never existed, fooling the most powerful military in Europe? Welcome to Operation Fortitude, where Allied forces created a completely fake 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG for short, stationed in southeast England. This wasn't just paperwork. They built inflatable tanks, fake landing craft made of canvas and wood, and constructed dummy airfields with plywood planes. Radio operators transmitted thousands of fake messages daily, creating the illusion of an entire division preparing for battle. General George Patton, one of Germany's most feared opponents, was placed in command of this ghost army to make it believable. German reconnaissance planes photographed the fake installations. Their intelligence officers intercepted the false radio chatter. Every piece of evidence pointed to a massive invasion force preparing to strike at Pas-de-Calais, the shortest route to France. The deception was so convincing that even after D-Day began at Normandy, Hitler refused to move his reserves, believing Normandy was merely a diversion. Those phantom tanks and rubber planes tied down 150,000 German troops who could have turned the tide at Normandy. But creating fake armies was just the beginning. The next level involved turning the enemy's own spies against them. The double-cross system. What if every single spy you thought was working for you was actually feeding you lies? Britain's MI5 pulled off something extraordinary through the double-cross system. They captured virtually every German spy sent to Britain and gave them a choice: work for us or face execution. Over 120 German agents were turned and began feeding false intelligence back to Berlin. The brilliant part? British intelligence controlled the entire German spy network in Britain without the Nazis ever knowing. These double agents, codenamed agents like Garbo, Tricycle, and Brutus, became Germany's most trusted sources. Garbo alone created a fictitious network of 27 sub-agents across Britain, all existing only in his reports. He sent over 300 letters and 2,000 radio messages to his German handlers, who paid him handsomely and awarded him the Iron Cross for his valuable service. Meanwhile, every word was crafted by British intelligence to manipulate German decisions. The system was so effective that British intelligence could actually track what the German High Command believed about Allied plans by monitoring which false intelligence they acted upon. They weren't just deceiving the enemy. They had created a closed feedback loop where they controlled both the questions and the answers. However, even double agents weren't enough for what came next: the deception that would require sacrificing human dignity itself. The man who never was. Would you be willing to use a corpse to win a war? In 1943, British intelligence faced a critical problem: how to invade Sicily without the Germans reinforcing it. Their solution was Operation Mincemeat, one of the most macabre yet brilliant deceptions in military history. They obtained the body of a homeless man who died from pneumonia, Glyndor Michael, dressed him as Major William Martin of the Royal Marines, and planted false documents on him, indicating that Allied forces would invade Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. The body was carefully prepared with love letters, theater tickets, and intimate items to make the identity convincing. British intelligence even gave him a fiancée, fake photographs and intimate letters from Pam that German intelligence would find heartbreakingly authentic. A submarine deposited the body off the Spanish coast, where it would wash ashore and be discovered by Spanish authorities, who were sympathetic to Germany. The plan worked flawlessly. German intelligence examined the documents and deemed them genuine. Hitler himself ordered reinforcements diverted to Greece and Sardinia. When the Allies invaded Sicily on July 10, 1943, they faced lighter resistance than expected. The invasion succeeded in just 38 days, and one anonymous man's death and false identity had saved thousands of Allied lives. But physical deception was only part of the strategy. The Allies needed to control something far more powerful: information itself.
Ultra, the secret that stayed secret. What if you could read every message your enemy sent, but couldn't let them know? British cryptanalysts at Bletchley Park achieved the impossible. They cracked the German Enigma machine, giving them access to encrypted Nazi communications. This intelligence, codenamed Ultra, was so valuable that Winston Churchill called it my most secret source. But here's the twist. Having the information created a dangerous dilemma. Use it too obviously, and the Germans would realize their codes were broken and change them. This led to some of the war's most agonizing decisions. The British had to allow some attacks to succeed, some ships to sink, and some soldiers to die, because stopping every German operation would reveal that their codes were compromised. They developed elaborate protocols. Ultra-intelligence could only be acted upon if there was a plausible alternative explanation, like a reconnaissance flight that spotted enemy movements. In Coventry 1940, there's evidence Churchill knew about the planned bombing through Ultra, but couldn't evacuate the city without arousing suspicion. The city was devastated, but the secret remained safe. This information helped shorten the war by an estimated 2 years, saving countless lives, but at the cost of some they could have saved earlier. Intelligence officers carried this burden, knowing they were playing a deadly chess game where every move mattered. Yet even Ultra wasn't the deepest level of deception. The Allies still needed to ensure the Germans saw exactly what they wanted them to see. Fortitude South and the invasion that wasn't. How do you convince Hitler that the biggest invasion in history is happening somewhere it's not? D-Day's success depended on making the Germans believe the Normandy landings were a diversion and the real invasion would come at Pas de Calais. Fortitude South became the most complex military deception ever attempted, weaving together everything from previous levels into one masterful illusion. The fictional 1st U.S. Army Group, commanded by Patton, was preparing to cross at the narrowest point of the English Channel. The obvious strategic choice. Double agents sent reports confirming Fusag's strength and readiness. Fake radio traffic simulated millions of military communications. Allied bombers hit Pas de Calais twice as hard as Normandy to suggest it was the target. They even had double agent Garbo send a message to Berlin just hours before D-Day, warning that an operation was underway, timed deliberately to arrive too late to stop Normandy, but early enough to build his credibility for the crucial deception that would come afterward. After June 6th, Garbo sent urgent messages that Normandy was indeed a feint, and the main assault was still coming at Calais. Hitler believed him. For 7 critical weeks, elite Panzer divisions sat idle at Calais, waiting for an invasion that would never come, while Allied forces established their foothold in France. By the time German commanders realized the truth, the opportunity to push the Allies back into the sea had passed. But there was another theater of war where deception took an even more personal, intimate form. Seduction and blackmail, the human weakness. Can love, lust, and fear be weaponized as effectively as any bomb? While armies clashed on battlefields, another war raged in hotel rooms, embassies, and bedrooms across Europe. Intelligence agencies exploited the oldest vulnerabilities, desire, loneliness, and fear, to turn officials into unwitting traitors. The Soviet Union mastered this through their honey trap operations, using attractive agents to seduce foreign diplomats and officers, then blackmail them with photographs and threats of exposure. The most famous case was the Cicero affair, where Eliesa Bazna, valet to the British ambassador in Turkey, photographed top-secret documents and sold them to the Germans. His motivation? Money and resentment. He earned the equivalent of millions, but was paid in counterfeit British pounds, an ironic deception within a deception. Meanwhile, the British ambassador remained oblivious that his most sensitive war plans were being copied feet from where he slept. Women operatives like Cynthia, an American working for British intelligence, used seduction to obtain French naval codes that proved crucial for the North African invasion. She engaged in a romantic relationship with a French embassy press officer, gaining access to classified documents through intimate trust. These operations worked because they exploited the gap between public duty and private desire, the human element that no amount of security protocol could fully eliminate. However, the most chilling level of deception wasn't about fooling the enemy. It was about sacrificing your own people. The ultimate sacrifice, Operation Bodyguard's darkest secret. Would you sacrifice your own soldiers to protect a secret? Operation Bodyguard, the overall deception plan for D-Day, required something unthinkable, allowing Allied soldiers to die to maintain the illusion. The most haunting example came during Exercise Tiger, a D-Day rehearsal at Slapton Sands in April 1944. German E-boats attacked the exercise, killing 749 American servicemen, more than died on Utah Beach itself. Several officers with knowledge of D-Day plans were among those in the water. Allied command faced a terrifying possibility. What if the Germans had captured someone with knowledge of the real invasion plans? They couldn't change the invasion date or location without months of delay. Instead, they ordered a desperate search for missing bodies, particularly those of officers. Until every body was accounted for, they couldn't be certain the secret was safe. Some soldiers drowned wearing their life jackets backwards in training, a preventable tragedy, but public revelation could have compromised security. Beyond this, deception planners knew that diversionary operations, fake attacks, and probing assaults would cost lives. These men would die not to capture objectives, but to sell a lie. The bombers hitting Calais twice as hard as Normandy, those aircrews faced flak and death to reinforce a deception. Allied commanders calculated that these sacrifices would save more lives in the end, but they carried the moral weight of sending men to die for illusions rather than objectives. When ultra-intercepts confirmed German troops were being held at Calais weeks after D-Day, British intelligence knew their deceptions had worked, but they also knew they'd sent men to create those deceptions who never came home. These World War II spies and their World War II espionage operations prove that Allied deception World War II was as crucial as any battlefield victory. From famous World War II spies like Agent Garbo to double agents World War II who turned the tide, these World War II spy stories reveal how World War II intelligence operations and World War II code-breaking at Bletchley Park changed history forever. The 7 levels we explored today show that winning required not just weapons, but masterful manipulation. Which deception shocked you most? Drop a comment below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more incredible untold stories from history's darkest hours.